Welcome back, folks. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Pick Your Politics. We have a great guest ahead. He is known as the American Sheriff. His name is Sheriff Mark Lamb, and he grew up in Hawaii, also lived in the Philippines, Panama, and Argentina. We'll have to ask him about all of that. He moved to Arizona in 2003 and is married to his beautiful wife, Janelle, and has 5 kids. And he started working with the Pinal County Police Department back in 2012 and then was elected sheriff in 2017 to Pinal County's Sheriff's Office. Mark Lamb, thanks for coming on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time. I have notes and so many things that I want to talk about. So, but before we get to all of that, give us a little, I touched on a few things, but give us a little bio about yourself and you growing up in all these places. Was your dad in the military? Is that why you were in different countries?
No, my dad was actually a graduate of Thunderbird Business College, which is a global management school for business here in Arizona, a very prestigious school. So we always grew up outside of the country. We grew up in Hawaii. I left there when I was 11, went to the Philippines. I actually went to high school in Arizona, but then during my junior year, or I think it was probably my freshman year, my family moved to Panama. So I spent all my summers and vacations in Panama, and then I served a mission for my church in Argentina. So
Wow.
I've spent some time outside the continental United States, that's for sure.
That's an education just in and of itself, being to all those countries. That's awesome. And then you spent a little time in Colorado, I believe, and had a couple of businesses before you even got into law enforcement, right?
A little time in Utah.
Oh,
I was a
Utah.
dairyman
Okay.
in Utah, and then I owned a little paintball store. It's one of my businesses that I owned there, and then came back to Arizona and decided to just put our roots down here in Arizona. And a few years later, I found myself becoming a cop. I'd never thought about being a cop, to be honest with you. It never crossed my mind. I didn't grow up as a kid saying, "Oh, I'm gonna be a cop when I get older." Never thought about it. It wasn't until one of my neighbors said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a ride along?" And I said, "Yes, why not? I don't have anything else to do." So went on the ride along and came home that morning. The next morning, it was a graveyard shift. Came home that morning, woke my wife up, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a cop." 6 months later, I was in the academy and on my way to being a cop. So,
And now look at you.
it was. Yeah, now I'm the sheriff. Look at that.
That's amazing. Now, how did you jump from that to deciding you wanted to be sheriff?
So I had been a gang and drug detective for a long time, and frankly, I didn't like the direction of the country. It was under the Obama administration. I just didn't like what was happening to the rule of law. I could see just more and more government overreach. I was becoming more and more concerned. And so I decided to, instead of just complaining about it, I said, I remember standing in our squad room one day telling the other guys on the gang unit, I said, "Hey, I'm going to run for sheriff." And they're like, "You're crazy." And I knew nothing about running for sheriff, but I knew that I wanted to be part of the solution. And I thought that we needed better leadership in law enforcement. And I also thought we needed people who were going to have the courage to stand up for the rule of law in America and the freedoms of the people. And so I saw an opportunity there, and I went after it. I knew nothing about it, but thanks to God and hard work, I found my way through it.
Well, America is glad to have you because you're known as the American sheriff. I think you're the most beloved sheriff in the country. So that's great. But when people think of Arizona and your county, of course, people think of the border and all the illegals that are coming. It's just pouring across the border. So how has that affected Arizona as far as the drugs and the trafficking and all that goes with that?
Oh, it's affected Arizona tremendously. I mean, Texas and Arizona are taking the brunt of the 300,000 people that are coming into this country every month across our
Wow.
southern borders. The majority of those are coming through into counties like mine. And I have the I-10 and the I-8 corridor. The I-10 interstate is one of the main arteries for the cartels pushing drugs and humans into this country. And look, Stephanie, I want to tell the American people that are listening, this is not about immigration. This is about human trafficking and drug trafficking into America. And it shouldn't matter what party you are, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. If you care about people, you should care about border security, because the women are being raped, the children are being used as pawns, the men are being extorted, and ultimately these people are being forced into probably the biggest epidemic of slavery that we've had in this country for a long time. And it's happening on our watch because politically we align with the people that want to let them come in here.
Yeah.
I don't, but other people
Right.
do.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we had policies in place with the Trump administration that were helping and keeping that under control. So can you explain, because a lot of people are blaming Trump for this. Trump gets blamed for a lot of things, but can you explain to the folks how those policies were working and how the new policies now, what the difference is between the two administrations?
This is in no way, shape, or form President Trump's fault. One of the things he did was build the wall, which it was people didn't like that, but the wall was a key piece to border security. It wasn't the end all be all, but it was a key piece to the border security, and it does work. He also understood the importance of working with Border Patrol and Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection and ICE. I, as a sheriff, went to the White House like 10 times because he gave us a seat at the table. He understood the importance of the rule of law, and he was doing the best he could to stop to affect border security, which is one of his responsibilities, one of the responsibilities of the federal government. And so he had the Remain in Mexico program. And it was clear to those people that were trying to come here that this was not an open border situation under President Trump. Now, when you talk to these people and you ask them, why are you coming into the country? Because of Joe Biden.
Yeah. And so many countries, so not just people coming in from Mexico, they're coming from other countries, and we're having all kinds of other issues with that as well. Are you guys, I saw that buses from Texas are being shipped to DC and dropping them off in New York. Are you guys doing the same thing from Arizona?
I had heard we were. I don't know for sure, but I will tell you, I don't like just flooding American cities with people that came here to this country illegally, but the government has taken the responsibility. You know, years ago, we passed a bill here in Arizona 10 years ago called SB 1070, which would have made it illegal, a state crime to be in this country illegally. And the federal government fought it. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that it is the federal government's responsibility, and theirs alone, to do border security and immigration and enforce immigration laws. So they have that responsibility, and they're failing. And so Governor Abbott, he has no other choice but to send them to Washington, D.C. and New York. And those folks have said publicly they'll take them with open arms. Now they don't seem to be singing that same tune now that it's on their front doorstep. And frankly, they haven't even felt hardly any of the impact. They've had a few thousand people that have been bused there. How about the hundreds of thousands that we've had to deal with on a daily, I don't want to say on a daily basis, but daily we're dealing with the hundreds of thousands of people that are coming here every month.
Right. It's such a problem. We got to get that fixed come November. Hopefully, if we turn things over here. So speaking of elections, we have elections coming up, and Arizona is always big in the news with elections and election integrity. And you guys did the forensic audit. I think you guys have done more than any state in the nation. So, but a lot of people don't realize the powers that a sheriff has. How are you guys involved in the election process?
Well, as a sheriff, I recognize the importance of protecting the sanctity of our vote, which is one of our most precious rights as Americans. And it shouldn't matter what party you are, you should want to know that we have election integrity. And it's also about the rule of law. There are laws that prohibit you from certain actions when it relates to voting. You cannot stuff ballots in a box more than usually what your own ballot. There's a few narrow exceptions. And you cannot vote for somebody who's passed on, even though you think that you know how they might have voted if they were alive. You can't vote in a place you no longer live. These are all crimes. And so it's about enforcing the rule of law. I saw the need for it. I've also partnered on the side with True the Vote. We do protectamerica.vote and True the Vote. They've done amazing work trying to understand our elections and where our deficiencies are and what we can do better. And so we're just trying to educate the people as to what the laws are. And we're trying to educate sheriffs that their ability to enforce these laws and to ensure that all the voter laws are being followed. And if they're breaking them, to potentially hold those people accountable and investigate those crimes. And really, that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to do that here in my county. We're working with the county to be able to monitor all the drop boxes to make sure that we don't have people stuffing a ton of ballots in there or coming every day to drop ballots. We've offered our help to check up on voter rolls. We've done a lot of different things. And we'll continue to do it to make sure that the people trust that their vote matters.
And does every county partner with you in Arizona? Do they all do the same thing with as much vigor as you do?
I don't know. I try to focus on what I'm doing as opposed to so much about what they're doing. I know that there are several sheriffs that feel the same way, that the rule of law matters. We need to protect our vote. It's a political hot potato. Every time you take this on, immediately those people that they say you believe in the big lie, or they say this or that, and they just try to beat you down politically and verbally and in the media for just wanting election integrity. And I don't think that it's a party issue, but a lot of guys, they believe it, but whether they step out into the limelight and are willing to say it in public, two different things.
Yeah. There was an event here at Ahern, and it was a bunch of sheriffs were here from all over the country. Sheriff Mack was here, I think, and Mark Fincham. They were up here, and it's the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Are you a part of that?
Yeah, I have been a member for a long time. I've got my own group, Protect America Now, so I do more, we're kind of parallel groups. We do a lot of the same things. And so I think we're both focused on the same thing, which is protecting the people's rights, standing up for the rule of law, and standing up for the Constitution, and standing against bad policies. And I think we're both trying to accomplish the same thing. I know Richard Mack, Sheriff Mack, very well, and he's fighting the good fight. And we're trying to do the same thing. The majority of the people that we're working with are active sheriffs, and I know they've got quite a few there as well. But we're both just trying to go out and protect the American way of life and the system that our founding fathers set up.
Now, how do you protect against the illegals that are coming in? How do you protect against them trying to vote and registering to vote?
That's a great question, and that we've got our work cut out for us, and that's why we're offering our services and constantly pressuring them to make sure their voter rolls are up, verifying signatures, addresses. There's a lot that goes into it. I don't think you can ever eliminate fraud completely. I'm not naive enough to believe that, but I think we've got to do the best we can to eliminate the ability to commit fraud as much as possible. And let's hope that we can keep the folks that are here in this country illegally. They're not American citizens. They shouldn't have the right to vote. This is America, and that our ability to vote should be reserved for the citizens of this country who pay taxes and who are actual citizens of this country.
Right. And you were just recently at the Trump rally in Prescott, Arizona, right? You were a guest speaker there. So tell us about that.
I was. What an honor. It was an honor, and it was an honor to have President Trump say a few kind words about me. I support America First candidates. I believe in this country strongly. If my actions haven't shown that, hopefully you can get it through, what I'm conveying to you today, that I'm a God-fearing patriot. I love this country. I love God, family, freedom. I love guns. I'm going to do everything I can to protect the Constitution. And I've known President Trump to be a man who loves the same things. I've met him on many occasions. This is a great man who loves America, who loves freedom, who loves the American people, and he put everything on the line, his business, his family, his wealth, everything, to protect those things. And we owe a debt of gratitude to him and his family, and it's sad to see them get treated the way they've been treated. uh, even if you disagree with them, it just is not right to treat somebody like that who really tried to do the best he could for this country.
Yeah, the media has just tried to destroy him and has been against him and made up so many fake things. They have gone after him worse than anyone, and probably because he's exposed the most of the corruption that happens in DC and in our government. What do you think of the FBI raids, the raid of his home just recently?
Well, I don't love it. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are causing concerns amongst the American people, including myself. You know, this investigation, to my understanding, was not done by FBI agents in Florida. It was done by FBI agents out of Washington. And it sounds like a lot of those same FBI agents were involved in the Russia hoax. They were involved in the January 6th committee. And then to now be involved in this doesn't look good. And then to not release the documents you used, the probable cause you used to get that search warrant. Look, I'm a Constitution guy, and the Constitution says that you can get a search warrant to search somebody's house, but you have to have probable cause to do that. And look, if the FBI followed all the rules, I support that. And I think President Trump does as well. I've heard him say as much. But I think when you fail to be transparent to the people and explain what was your probable cause, it just leads for more and more people to be distrusting. And the FBI is not in a position, in my opinion, to really, they don't have much line left to be running out there on. So they really should do the best they can to restore the faith of the people in that great institution that's been around for so long, and let us know that it's not political in nature. But right now, everything doesn't look great. And as a sheriff, I would have liked to have seen it done different.
Is it disheartening to you because, you know, there's always a bad apple in the bunch, and there's always a bad element, but they kind of tarnish the whole law enforcement, you know, community. It seems like when you hear they're involved in the January 6th stuff and they're instigating some of these incidents, and we hear all this stuff about the FBI, and then we have this raid, it must be just disheartening being a law enforcement officer.
Well, it's disheartening, and I think it's a little scary for the American people. Mm-hmm. You know, if they can weaponize law enforcement against the American people, that is dangerous, and that is very alarming. And so, you know, I think this is why your sheriffs are important. Your sheriffs are elected by the people, who respond to the people. Look, the FBI doesn't have to worry about constituents. They don't worry about voters saying, hey, you shouldn't have done that. They don't ever have to respond to the calls that we get as elected officials. And I think that's one of the beauties of being the sheriff. And so I just am concerned that we're allowing government to politicize our law enforcement on a federal level when it should be used as a checks and balance, which is what this country was built on, is redundant checks and balances. But they keep stacking the deck, and every time more and more, their actions, it looks like they're just stacking it more and more against us.
Yeah. And speaking about the government being against the people, what do you think about the 87,000 IRS agents coming on board?
I think it's stupid.
Yeah, a waste of money.
It's a waste of money, and it really, I'm just about everybody's going to get audited now. Mm-hmm. And I think we have so many government agencies. Border Patrol is dying for people out there. They need more people to stop real threats to this country. And they deem that they need to give 87,000 more IRS agents. I mean, that alone should lose every congressperson and senator out there. That alone should lose their elections.
$80 billion. Yeah, $80 billion.
$80 billion to the IRS. You know, you can make the IRS so simple. As Steve Forbes used to always just talk about a flat tax, and you'd probably collect more money. They've made it so complicated. Now you have 87,000 agents coming out there. The founding fathers threw the tea in the harbor for 3%, and they were pissed off because they wanted to tax stamps, and they looked at it as taxation without representation. Now look where we're at, 87,000 IRS agents above and beyond what they already have.
It's going to be a mess if we can't reverse that come November and get rid of that. That's horrible. going back to the border, when you mentioned that again in the Border Patrol agents, how come the National Guard in Arizona and Texas are not deployed so that there's a massive amount of people down there to just turn away these migrants and force them to go back into Mexico?
Well, that's a great question. That a lot, but the National Guard has been deployed probably for the last year and a half or more. They've been assisting us here at our sheriff's office. I think the average American thinks because you were in the Army or in the National Guard that you were an infantryman. Not everybody in the military, even though you go through boot camp, is really considered what they would say infantry, like 82nd Airborne or one of your special forces units. A lot of these folks were truck drivers or they did supply jobs within the military. And so they're not necessarily classified for that, nor do I think that the governor of Arizona or Texas has the Texas State Guard. Now we only have the National Guard, and I'm not sure that they have the ability, the constitutional authority to deploy them on the border. Don't quote me on that. I'm just not sure that they do. And so I have to give them credit. They did deploy them. We've been benefit. I just talked to one of our guardsmen today who helps us in evidence. It has been a tremendous help for us as we've been dealing with a lot of these other issues that are precipitated by this government failing to do their job.
Yeah, it's treason. It's an illegal invasion into our country is the way I see it. Yeah.
Yep.
So you mentioned the Second Amendment, and the government has just, tightened up more background checks, and they're expanding red flag laws and all of that. Do you guys have the red flag laws down in Arizona? We have those here.
No, they've tried, but we've been able to fight and keep those out. They've tried it, and they ran one that was called the School Safety Bill, and we went to the governor and said, "This is BS. This is a red flag law. It has nothing to do with schools." And so we have been fighting against it. I will tell the American people, do not give an inch on the Second Amendment.
Right.
The only reason we haven't been buffaloed and run roughshod over right now is because of the Second Amendment. And the founding fathers knew it. They didn't give us that for deer hunting, to protect ourselves, our constitutional rights, and they gave it to protect ourselves from another tyrannical government. And so that is something that I will fight. As long as I'm the sheriff, I will fight for the people's rights to keep and bear arms, which is exactly what the Constitution says.
Right. So what does your travel schedule look like? Are you called around the country to speak and do events and things like that? What do you have coming up?
Oh man, I work 50, 60 hours here. And then on the weekends, I tend to fly out and speak somewhere and talk about the importance of the rule of law and border security. I got a vacation coming up. That's what I'm doing first. But
good.
After the vacation, I'm heading to Texas. I'm heading to Prescott here in our state. I'm heading to Lake Havasu, which is right on the border of Arizona and California. I'll be coming out to Indiana. I'll be coming to bunch of different places. I know you just talked to Randy Sutton.
Yep.
I'll be out there in Indiana October 11th through the 14th for the Wounded Blue Conference, which is their second annual conference. Amazing event. I went to it, was one of the speakers last year. I'll be one of the speakers again this year. And I encouraged a bunch of my guys to go because I thought it was such a great event. And the people that went from my agency the last time got so much out of it. So Randy does a great job, and that is one of the places I will be.
That's awesome. And you do a lot of travel, a lot of interviews. How has this affected your family and your kids? What do your kids think about you being the American sheriff?
Well, most of my kids all my kids are over 18. So they're all adults now. I think for the most part, they like it. It brings unwanted attention on them and a higher level of scrutiny on them. But you know what? We as a family, we love this country. We love God, family, freedom. We love guns. And we're going to do everything we can to protect those things. And all of us are lockstep in that. My wife, my kids. And so they understand it. My oldest is getting out of the Army, and he's really starting to value the connections that his dad being a sheriff a notable sheriff across the country is bringing to him.
That's awesome. And have you ever thought about running for another elected office in Arizona or
I would,
Congress
I
or?
mean, I'd be lying to say those thoughts haven't crossed my mind, but they're fleeting. I really have no desire. You know, a lot of people say, "What are you running for?" And they believe because I'm out speaking in different places that I've got to be running for something, and I truly am not. I don't have a desire to be Congress or Senate. I don't know that I would make a great legislator because I'd be like, "No, that bill's dumb. I'm not voting for that." I would be the no guy. You know, I just think government's already too big anyway, and so I'm not sure that I would make the best legislator. But what I do feel like is I want to be wherever my voice is loudest for God, family, and freedom. And I feel like right here at the sheriff's office, I'm able to do that. It gives me a loud voice. Look, I'm on your show right now. Pick Your Politics. I'm right here and talking about the things that I love and cherish and that are important to me. And I feel like right now I think that's where I'm supposed to be. So I have no political aspirations, but God does funny things to your life. So my wife and I say this: we just walk through open doors. We
Yep.
don't know where they're going to take us, but we walk through open doors.
That's good. That's a good place to be because he'll use you however he wants to use you.
Right.
So, how many interviews or so do you do a week, do you think? Can't even
I don't
count?
know. I think this is my third one today.
Wow.
Probably about 5 to 10 a week, and that's only because I just don't have the bandwidth to do more. I try. I've got a regular job. I've got to do all this and then mix in these interviews, and so yeah, it's daunting. But here's how I look at it, Stephanie. I always look at it like somebody somewhere wants to say what I'm saying, and so I feel like just because I'm lazy and I didn't feel like doing an interview. I feel like I deprived somebody of their voice for that interview, and so I try to take them all, as many as I can, so that people feel like, yes, that's exactly what I would say if I was on the news. And so
Yeah.
that's what I try to do.
Yeah. Well, I know millions agree with you, and I'm glad you're getting your message out there. And I'm glad that you came on the show and that I'm able to provide this platform for you. So, before I let you go, can you give people a point of contact and how to get in touch with you? And if there's other people that want to have you on their shows, how do they reach you?
Yeah, you can reach me on Instagram at American Sheriff. You can reach me on Facebook at Sheriff Lamb. Truth Social is American Sheriff. I have a book out called American Sheriff: Traditional Values in a Modern World. You can get that at americansheriff.com or sheriffswife.com. My wife has a book too. And we just got through writing 2 new books.
Oh, wow.
And so my book should be coming out here in about the next 2 to 4 weeks, I would guess. My second book will be coming out, and hopefully you'll have me back on. We can talk about that book. But you'll be able to get that book at sheriffswife.com and on Amazon.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, thanks so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I'm so glad. It was so easy to get in touch, easier than I thought. And you responded right away, and I appreciate it. And thank you for taking the time to come on Pick Your Politics.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you, and be safe down there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Well, that wraps up another episode of Pick Your Politics. What a great interview, and a wonderful sheriff that is protecting his community and county down in Arizona. And I know there's a lot more like him that are doing the same in their communities. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.